black people are not unreasonably targeted. If you look at the statistical data, white people are disproportionately targeted by police than black people. And let me explain to you why.
I don't
When
see
you
that.
have a
I
high
don't see that,
crime
Brandon.
area,
Okay.
I'm just putting
I'm
that, and
listening.
people can
Okay.
fact check me. When
Okay.
when you are in a high crime area, which if you look at statistical data, black men create over half of all violent crimes, and black men, when you look at the murder rate, are committing half of all the murders in the United States of America. So what does that do? That necessitate a police response to the community. This is not all black people. I don't get pulled over for no reason. Most black people I know don't get pulled over for no reason. But when you are in a community where it's high crime and high violence, you're going to have more police presence. With more police presence, you're going to have more police interactions. And so it's not because they're black, it's because black people are living in these high crime communities that necessitate more police interactions. When it comes to wrongful convictions, the more you are in the system, the more likelihood you may be convicted for something you didn't do. And unfortunately, black people are putting themselves in positions to be in the system more. I'll add this. A lot of times what they do in order to push racism and lies, they go and show a conviction of a black person. They go, this person robbed a store and they got life in prison. What they don't tell you is this the person's third or fourth offense. That's why they have a sentence that's harsher. And I'll tell you this, they'll never find a judge and say this judge has been disproportionately sentencing black people and that person is a racist. Why don't they point these judges out and we get them off the bench? That's because more than likely the judge don't exist. They are comparing jurisdictional sentencing and acting as if the whole country is the same. Crime in certain states are treated more harshly than crimes in other states. You know, in LA, no bail. You can steal stuff up to $2,000 and still get a slap on the wrist. You go to Georgia, you go to some place in the South, they're not playing that game. And where do black people live? Majority in the South. So when you have harsher sentences being put in countries or in cities where it's primarily black, you're going to see higher sentencing. Then they compare them to other states, and then they say, "Look, there's disparity." No, that's not how it works. I have family members that doing a lot of time in prison. Why? My uncle robbed a store, a great uncle. He robbed a store, shot the clerk. The clerk ducked, thank God, and he got charged with attempted murder, and he doing 25 years to life. And people will say, man, he got 25 years of life for robbery. He didn't even kill anybody. They don't say that this is his fourth or fifth time going to prison. He actually murdered people and never got caught for it. I mean, he's living a life of violence. One of my other cousins, he got 75 years in prison. He shot 3 people in an altercation in front of his baby mama's house. And he got 75 years. And people may say, man, that's really strict. He didn't kill anybody. He just shot people. They don't tell you that he was a convicted felon, that was a prohibited possessor. So he had a firearm that he shouldn't have had. There was dope in the car. And he went and shot people. And they determined that it was unprovoked for the 2 out of the 3 people that he shot. That's why he got that time. It's not because he's black. When I was a police officer, we used to arrest black people and they let them out the next day. The system was a little more lenient to black people because of the reputation that the black people are getting sentenced too hard, so they give them less sentences, and then they go out and commit more and more and more and more crime. And I wish that they, like, for instance, nobody that you talk to that complain about police officers dealing with black people can tell you how many white people have been shot unarmed. They only can tell you black. Well, the statistical data point shows that white people get shot twice as much as black people do.
I've seen you talk
unarmed.
about this.
White people get arrested twice as much as black people do. And, well, I say arrested, I mean for murder, twice as much as black people do. White people are the biggest population in prison. It's just that black people are disproportionately represented. But
right, that's what I was going to say. But there's a lot more white people, so it becomes disproportionate.
But black people commit a lot more crime disproportionately, and that's something that people are afraid to say. When you have a population that's 13% of the population represent half of the murders, I mean, what do they expect? They expect it to be 13% in the prison? No, it'll be half of black people in prison if they're committing half of the murders and half of violent crimes. And if we go to the root of this stuff,
I was going to say, okay, right? That's exact redlining
the root of it is
sabotaging the black community in the 80s and the Jim Crow, all this shit. Let's not pretend
Jillian,
like that didn't happen.
That's not the root. Because when you look at redlining, when you do the research about what it really is, redlining wasn't a race-based thing. when you look at the red line districts where they determined that this was the red areas, because they had red, they had yellow, and they had green. The red areas, most of the people that live in those areas were white. And they don't want to tell you that.
That I didn't see. I know that they weren't giving people of color loans.
No, they were not doing that. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. I wrote an op-ed about this, and there was research done that proved this. They don't tell you that the majority of the people in the red line districts were white. It's just that majority of the black people lived in the district. So disproportionately, black people were in the red line districts. The redlining was based on whether or not you can afford a certain loan because of your credit score or because of other various principles. It wasn't about black. It was about the zone of people. And when you go back and look at it, they were mad at redlining, quote unquote, because they disenfranchised black people who couldn't afford loans. But then you fast forward today, they were giving loans to black people who couldn't afford it. Now they call it predatory lending. A lot of the things that are going on are just talking points.
Every fall, there's that shift in the air, right? Mornings get a little cooler, the light changes, and suddenly you're reaching for layers that make you feel grounded, comfortable, pulled together. And those are just a few of the things that I love about Quince, because their pieces don't scream for attention, but the second you put them on, you feel the difference. They've nailed the sweet spot of luxury quality without the luxury markup. Their $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters are ridiculously soft, not too heavy, not too thin, not itchy. It is literally the perfect layer that I wear under a coat or on its own. The denim fits like a dream. Clean lines, flattering on everyone. These are the kind of staples that end up on repeat. It's your personal fall uniform without even trying. My favorite piece is the Italian wool coat. Oh my God. The one I have looks and feels designer, but it costs a fraction of the price. The tailoring is beautiful. The weight is perfect. And somehow I manage to look great effortlessly every time I have it on. And what makes Quince different is how they work. So they partner with ethical top-tier factories, the same ones that produce for major designer labels, and they cut out the middlemen. So you're getting exceptional craftsmanship, responsible production, and prices that are about half of what you'd normally pay for pieces of this quality. So it's refined without being fussy, elevated, but approachable. The kind of wardrobe that makes you feel like you've grown into your style and finally stop compromising between quality and cost. Find all your staples at Quince. Go to quince.com/Jillian for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/Jillian to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Jillian. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. So if you're intimidated about designing a website, don't worry. Shopify's got you covered from the get-go with beautiful, ready-to-go templates to match your brand style. And if you need a hand, you can get help with everyday tasks like enhancing product images, writing product descriptions, generating discount codes. Shopify's AI tools are created for commerce. And if people haven't heard about your brand, Shopify helps you find your customers with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. And if you get stuck, Shopify is always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. They have you 365-degree covered. So turn those dreams into and give them the best shot at success with Shopify. So sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Jillian. Just go to shopify.com/Jillian. That's shopify.com/Jillian.
Being a black man in America is no different than being anybody else. To be honest, a lot of times black people get a lot more better treatment than anybody else. They are showing, like, for instance, most black people are in the middle class. Most black people are not in the hood. Most black people are not committing crimes.
Right.
So the average black person is not living in poverty or not living in a situation where they're disproportionately represented in anything. The reason my dad is not in prison and my cousin is because my dad decided to go get a job and he worked for 42 years before he retired as a firefighter. And so they make up these things that are not necessarily true. And I grew up in the hood. I know that young men in the hood without fathers are committing asinine amount of crimes. This is why LeBron James don't live in the inner city communities. This is why nobody's investing from the black community that are wealthy. They're not investing in these communities. Why? Because they can't. It's too much crime going on. It's too much drama. If Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Denzel Washington, or anybody that we know that are spectacular, Ben Carson, you name it, any black prominent person, if they lived in the inner city community, they would. It's a good chance that they could be targeted and killed. We see Nipsey Hussle, who was a rapper. He was doing a lot of. He was doing a lot
A
of. He
lot
was
of
a
good.
gangbanger, roller 60s. He was rapping about a lot of violent things, but he was doing a lot of tremendous things in his community. And where did he get killed at?
Right
In his
outside.
community
Yeah.
by another gang member. Killed him in cold blood in front of everybody. Tupac Shakur, one of the greatest rappers to live, he was a game changer. Where did he get killed? He got killed by another black man. Biggie killed by another black man. It's and then you look at the murder rate of black men. 96% of black men are killed by other black men. And the 50% murder rate is because most of them are black men that are being killed by other black men. So when you look at South Side of Chicago, when you look at South Phoenix, when you look at South Dallas, where a lot of black violence is occurring, this is why you see a disproportionate amount of young black people going to prison. And it's because they committing a disproportionate amount of crime. I wish that we would have, you talk about the community where they put drugs in the community. Now, that was wrong, but nobody tells you to go sell drugs to your own people. At the time where crack
What about
cocaine
like the,
was,
the CIA putting crack into black communities to fund overseas wars? I haven't fully versed myself
say
on
that,
this, but
they say
but
that
it's,
I have to
it's
look
alarming.
into it.
It's like
They say
oh,
that I have to look
God.
into it more.
I just
But
I don't
I
want.
grew up in a community where I knew family members that sold drugs. I had people that I know very dear to me sell drugs. A lot of times, people are not selling drugs because that's the only way they can survive. That's a lie. They sell drugs because they can make a lot of money without having to pay taxes, and they can live an entrepreneurial lifestyle. They don't have to sell drugs. If you look at the drug busts, it wasn't majority of black people getting busted for selling drugs because majority of black people didn't sell drugs. It doesn't matter if the drugs in your community, you don't have to sell them.
But did the government target them? Like white people
Now,
got addicted to opioids. It's the
that's
same thing. It's like the black community and crack, white people and fentanyl and opioids, but the government didn't do that. That
that's
is.
that's a good question. I'm not really sure how much of that is reality, how much of that is
I'm not
is,
either, but I've certainly heard it before from fairly credible sources, and it was so dark. I was like, I'll look into that another day.
yeah, I have to still look into it too because I don't know if the verdict is still out that that's a legitimate claim and the reason why black folks are not doing well. Let me tell you why. Black people after slavery, and we can go down the list of the successes that black people have had after slavery. We weren't like that for a long period of time. The richest woman to ever live, the first female millionaire, and adjusted for inflation today, should be a billionaire. Out of any woman of any race was Madam C.J. Walker. She was a billionaire in the late 1800s, early 1900s. You talk about all of the people who came from slavery that began to build themselves. The black community was advancing at a rate higher than white people in the 30s and 40s. This is when Jim Crow was going on. Black people had their own businesses. They had their own schools. They had almost everything they need sustainable in their own community. We see the fallout of black folks a little bit later in life. And as we saw black people being successful, black fathers were in the home. Only 25% of children were born out of wedlock back when black people were incredibly successful.
Right.
And then we turn around and see now it's 70 to 80% of black kids are born out of wedlock. And therefore you see an influx in crime and disorder. A person can say the drug epidemic was a part of it, but that's not the full story of why black people are in the position that they're in. Because like I said, not all of us sold drugs and went to prison. That's insane for somebody to even believe that and try to push that as a reality. What happened was cultural dynamics within the black community. We don't circulate money like the Jewish community or the white community or the Indian or Asian community. We don't. We, as a community, because of rap music and all the stuff that we indulge in, we create an environment of consumerism. And so therefore we will go and buy things and not create things anymore like we used to. I'll give you an example of how the rhetoric against black people caused black people to be in a position rather than it being a reality. If you look at, they say Black Wall Street in 1925, where they had like a Black Wall Street, where black people were flourishing, black people were very successful. And then there was a race war that happened. And they lied to you about the race war. It's called the Tulsa riots.
Oh, I know. Yes, I understand.
Today,
I know
they call it the Tulsa massacre.
Yes.
When it wasn't a massacre, it was a riot. And it was a conflict between black and white people. It was an incident that happened on the elevator or something similar to that. And black people came out and they had a confrontation with white people. Black people began to shoot and kill white people. And then there were some white people that came back to Tulsa and it became a race war and white people won. They won't tell you that Tulsa, Oklahoma was rebuilt about 3 to 4 years after that quote unquote massacre. They just leave it like that and make you think that that was the destruction of black people. But think about it like this. How would black people during Jim Crow and all of the segregational things and racism that was in our country, how would they even build a Black Wall Street? And in today's society where there's no Jim Crow, there's no water fountain things, there's no separate but equal, and black people can't create a Wall Street. It's a lot of it is in part that black people have sold their own people down a creek. Black people used to be Republican. The first black senators and all of them were Republican.
That's right.
And now all of a sudden we got tricked into the welfare state and all of those things. And now we are beholding to one party that have never done anything for us. We had the first black president. What did he do to address crime in Chicago? What did he do to address what they would call the incarceration complex or whatever they call the prison pipeline? What did he do to address any of that? Nothing. What did he do to address single parent homes? Nothing. But he did more for the LGBTQ community than he did for the black community. Name anything right now, and nobody can, legislation specifically to address dealing with the issues in the black inner city communities. They don't have any. Education, they don't have any. Crime, they don't have any. Recidivism, they don't have any. They don't have any answers for us.
All right, guys, if you like this clip and you want to watch the full episode, click here. And if you want more content like this, you can subscribe to the show by clicking here.